Oh, it's hatred. It's the only thing that lasts.
Hey, what's up, world? Hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. I know I'm having a pretty darn good week. I had to go to a couple of wakes, but death is a part of life, so you gotta keep on trekking. Anyway, the next couple of videos that I'm going to cover is going to be kind of focused on terrorists that the West props up. Terrorists that the West propagates, actually. In this video, we're going to be talking about climate terrorists, as you can probably guess from the video title. Now, I want to start off by establishing the fact that they are, in fact, terrorists. We're going to start with more obvious forms of their terrorism, and then we'll go on to more nuanced terrorism of theirs. So we're going to start off with this article from The Guardian, published March 8th, 2025, so just a couple of days ago. Alrighty, so we got this article titled, "A New Phase, Why Climate Activists Are Turning to Sabotage Instead of Protest." Now, of course, the sabotage is a euphemism for terrorism. And we'll see that right now. So tougher laws said to be inspiring clandestine attacks on the property and machinery of the fossil fuel economy. Now, once again, he's using a euphemism here to sound smart. It's a clandestine attack or clandestine attacks. Just call it what it is. Terrorist attacks on the property and machinery of the fossil fuel economy. They are doing these attacks to terrorize these companies, to terrorize the fossil fuel economy to turn away from fossil fuels. I mean, if they really care about this stuff, why not just invent things to replace this fossil fuel economy? Once again, revolution is not tearing down the existing order, it's establishing a new order that replaces the existing one. So anyway, this article is from this clown right here. Let's zoom in on this clown. Oh, I can't zoom in on him. I can zoom in on him like this. Look at this clown right here. I'll tell you all right now, I'm sorry if you're this bald and stuff at this age, but people that are this bald and look like this, I don't trust them at all. I'm like, there's shit going on in their head. They're doing stressful stuff in their life that is clearly causing them to have this unnatural appearance, that's clearly causing them to lose their hair. I don't trust them. I don't trust you, buddy. You're this bald, I just do not trust you. You're clearly doing too much shit that has you stressed out. Now, of course, I mean, some people, maybe they have like a crazy nightlife, even people who have crazy nightlives and go clubbing, even they don't lose hair like this. But people who lose hair like this are people that are stressing, and they're stressing for a reason, and it's because they're doing shit that their subconscious knows that they should not be doing. Or they're thinking shit that their subconscious is worried might be exposed. So when people are this bald, I'll say it again, I don't trust them. So this guy, Damian Gale, I don't trust you, all right? So let's read his bullshit article right now, right? As he's covering for these climate terrorists. It was raining and it was raining and the sparkling lights of the city of London shone back from the cold, wet pavement as two young men made their way through streets deserted, save for a few police and private security. Anyway, he tries to start this article off in this clever way. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make it sound like it's like an action story or some sort of mystery story. He's a piece of shit, all right? So anyway, you go down 5 years ago, climate activists from Extinction Rebellion, for some reason they put XR instead of ER. I guess the X looks fancy or whatever. And the school strikes movement believed getting huge number of people on the streets could persuade the powerful to change course on the climate crisis. The climate crisis! Oh, it's a crisis! Where's the crisis? Where's the fire? And I mean like an actual fire, not like a fire caused by crazy arsonists like this guy. It doesn't exist, all right? So then protesters from groups such as Insulate Britain and Just Stop Oil put their bodies and freedom on the line to disrupt business as usual in an effort to concentrate minds. This doesn't concentrate minds, it pisses minds off, right? So now, with climate breakdown worsening, where's your evidence that the climate is breaking down? Now, the climate breakdown is worsening, and this is what I love about these POSs, these massive elephant-sized pieces of shit is they assert things as if it's actually like self-evident, but it doesn't even exist. It only exists in their wild minds. And this to me is another form of terrorism. This is basically screaming fire in a movie theater. You're screaming fire. There's no fire. There's nothing happening. This should be against the law because this is terrorizing a person's mind. You're not physically terrorizing them with actions like these clowns are doing. Instead, you're actually psychologically terrorizing them. So anyway, I'm just going to summarize the article because there's a bunch of information that I want to cover. So essentially, these people, they went in and they cut some internet wires to some companies to try to like basically slow down or shut down their businesses. That's basically what they did here. He has a picture of them here. To me, this is like aiding and abetting terrorists here. You're aiding and abetting them to promote them. So this is supporting terrorism. Okay, maybe it's not a specific terrorist group that is labeled by the government as a terrorist group, but these people are terrorists. All right, so he goes on and he basically advocates for it. He talks about how, like, oh yeah, these other movements like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil, they weren't working, so now we have to do more extreme things. We have to, like, go ahead and actually attack people's property. And they actually use these words. They use the words attack, and it's clearly terrorism, right? So if you want, you can go read this entire article or you can go read this article in its entirety. It's by this clown right here. Let's go check out this guy's X page real quick, right? So if you go to his X page, he of course has all the typical clown stuff there. He's promoting this group, which is actually like trying to shut down this Romanian president the guy that I talked about in my previous video. So he's involved in all of that, and I'm sure he would say, I love democracy, but I'm totally okay with banning people from democracy. He reposted this hilarious post right here, which is just another contradiction. Let's actually read this critically. So this means not all, most, can I get an actual number? Can I get a percentage? Most bumblebee queens nest just below the ground. Okay, just below the ground is one area, or under piles of brush in winter. Wait a second, which is it? These are two completely different places. Just below the ground is one place, then under piles of brush is a completely different place. These are completely different places. So how can most bumblebees nest in completely different fucking places, right? So he throws this out, and then he's like, yeah, this is why we need to leave the leaves, ban the leaf blowers. In the spring, avoid raking, tilling, and mowing until the queens emerge from their winter nest in May. Hey, genius, so you're telling me we should just leave all these leaves? What about the farmers that need to grow some shit? They need to put seeds into the ground. They need to clear that ground first so that light can reach those seeds, so that water can reach those seeds. If you got a bunch of fucking leaves on there, what are you going to do? What are you going to grow? Yeah, once again, they're just attacking the food supply. This is just another excuse to hinder human livelihoods. Okay, this is all this is, and this is what it's all about. And I'm all for environmentalism. I'm all for living in harmony with the environment and stuff, but this is just ridiculous. Now, the best thing on his page, and of course, he does have a couple other things. He does kind of call out what Israel is doing in Gaza in some of his posts, but most of his posts are ridiculous. I think this is him right here, working with Fossil Free London. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just another bald psychopath who's clearly like stressed out of a bunch of things. Maybe he's just over masturbating, so he's fucking up with his body's like hormonal, flow, and this causes him to go bald. But yeah, once again, I don't trust bald people, okay? Because they're liars, they're deceivers. A lot of them are cowards, and he's got this at his the top of his page. Send Shell to hell. Are you saying we should kill them? Is there another way to get to hell other than killing people, other than causing them great bodily harm? Send Shell to hell. How else am I supposed to interpret that? Oh no, man, it's just like figurative language. No, your people are psychopaths, all right? So anyway, what I want to focus on, though, is I want to focus on this post of his down here, or at least this thing that he reposted. So, depressing to once again report that bird populations continue to plummet, We are seeing some species slide towards extinction in the UK. Something has to give. Maybe the wind fucking turbines that are out there like fucking giant guillotines chopping these fucking birds up as they're flying around. And of course, attracting those birds. A lot of these birds hunt by sound. So then they like hear this humming. They're like, oh, are those insects over there that I can get? And then they fly and boom, 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 boom. No, they're all fucking dead. Those aren't insects. Those are fucking giant flying guillotines that are chopping you the fucking all to death, right? So now what's interesting is when I go over to ChatGPT, look at what I found out over here, right? So I had to, of course, teach ChatGPT something again, because ChatGPT, it's not actual intelligence. It's just hardwired. It's like using probably some like 5G speed connection of some sort. It's not actual intelligence. It's just hooked up to a bunch of different databases, right? So check this out, right? So I'm like, roughly how many birds are killed by wind farms in the UK alone, right? So it's like estimates suggest that wind turbines in the UK cause between 10,000 and 100,000 bird deaths annually. That's a huge fucking discrepancy, those two numbers. 10,000 to 100,000. What the fuck? Where'd you get that from, right? But now check this out. Check this kicker out, right? While this number is significant, it's important to note that other human-related activities result in higher bird mortality rates. For instance, domestic cats are responsible for approximately 55 million bird deaths each year in the UK. Right? To mitigate the impact of wind turbines on bird populations, measures such as painting turbine blades black have been explored. Okay, you can paint them black, but once again, they're hunting by sound, a lot of them. They're attracted to the sounds that these blades make. So painting them black isn't going to do a damn fucking thing. If anything, it's going to make it more deadly. Because now they're black, it's nighttime, the birds are going to see these fucking blades even less. So how's painting them fucking black going to do a damn thing? I don't know. You got to be retarded. Your head's got to be so far up your ass that you can't even fucking breathe. Right? But now let's check this number out, right? So it claims domestic cats are responsible for 55 million bird deaths. I saw this, and I'm not a fucking rocket scientist, right? I'm not the fucking sharpest tool in the shed. But I can spot some bullshit when I see some bullshit. And I was like, wait a second, this has got to be some bullshit here, right? So I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, wait a second, what is the estimated wild bird population in the UK? Right? And then it gives me this bullshit number. It gives me these bullshit numbers. It doesn't want to tell me the exact bird population, right? It's like, well, this bird species has 8.6 million breeding pairs, and the robin has about 6.7 million pairs. I'm like, all right. And then it's like, despite these numbers, there has been a significant decline in bird populations over recent decades. The UK has lost approximately 73 million birds since 1970. And I'm like, wait a second. If the bird population has decreased by 73 million since 1970, that's over decades, and you're telling me cats kill fucking 55 million birds a year? Wait a second, these numbers are not fucking adding up, right? So I go on, I'm like, okay, so how do domestic cats kill approximately 55 million birds a year? Sounds like an impossible number or total bullshit, right? So it's like, oh, no, I understand. Look, and then this is how they get their numbers, right? So I understand your skepticism regarding the estimates that domestic cats in the UK kill approximately 55 million birds annually. This figure originates from a 2003 study, and studies are bullshit, right? Studies are not science. I'm sick and tired of people saying, oh, well, this study claims this. Is like, well, fuck that study. That study isn't shit. Okay, there's so many ways you can manipulate the factors in that study. They're not doing shit, right? So, by the Mammalian Society, which estimated that UK cats kill around 275 million prey items each year, including 55 million birds, right? So they're claiming, oh yeah, these cats kill 275 million prey. And this is how they do it, right? So total prey 275 birds, other prey, right? So let's look exactly how they got this number. Understanding the numbers to assess the plausibility of these figures. Cat population. The UK has an estimated 9 million domestic cats. Okay, these are not domestic cats that are on the streets. These are not 9 million stray cats. These are 9 million domestic cats in total, right? So prey per cat, on average, this equates to about 30 prey items per cat annually, with approximately 6 being birds. It's like, wait a second, why do each of these domestic cats, which I'm sure a great many of them live in fucking doors and are being fed by their families. You know, we have this thing called cat food. We feed our cats, right? It's not like our cats are out there fucking scavenging food from themselves, every fucking single one of the 9 million cats, right? But no. In their numbers, in this study, they're like, oh, well, there are fucking 9 million cats. And some people have reported, and this is what reporting bias, the study estimates were based on prey items brought home by cats. You're telling me that they fucking... They found every single one of those 9 million cats, and they were like, oh yeah, every single one of these cats have brought a fucking bird home, right? So, however, research indicates that only about 23% of prey is returned home, suggesting the actual number of kills could be higher, right? And so check this out. Variability. Not all cats hunt. Yeah, no fucking shit. And hunting success varies. Factors such as age, environment, and individual behavior influence predation rates, right? So conclusion, while the figure of 55 million birds may seem high, it is based on extrapolation from observed data. It's not based on extrapolation from observed data. It's based on extrapolations of extrapolations. Oh, well, these 10 people who let their cats outside, they're the only fucking 10 people in this whole city over here. Well, one of their cats killed a bird. We're going to now say that only 23% of them are actually going to bring that bird home. And then we're going to create this giant number, right? So I'm like, wait a second. And now are the bird deaths from wind farms? I'm sorry. It was supposed to be, and how are the bird deaths from wind farms calculated, right? So this is how they calculate the wind farm deaths, right? So estimated bird mortality. What they do is they do carcass searches. Trained personnel conduct regular searches around wind turbines to locate bird carcasses. The frequency and area covered during these searches are standardized to maintain consistency. Are you telling me that they're fucking checking every single one of the wind turbines and all of the wind farms? I fucking doubt. Press F for doubt. Or press F for fucking doubt. So searcher efficiency trials. These trials assess the likelihood of observers detecting carcasses by placing no number of bird carcasses in the area without the searcher's knowledge. So, okay, well, they're placing bird carcasses in areas that they know searchers are going to search, right? And so how much time do they allow pass? Well, they try to calculate that, right? So scavenging removal trials. To estimate the rate at which scavengers remove carcasses before they are detected, researchers monitor how long placed carcasses remain. This data helps correct mortality estimates for carcasses that are removed prior to scheduled searches. Okay, so once again, these are carcasses that you're placing there. Those carcasses are not the same as fresh carcasses that are created from the windmill. So they have all of this bullshit, right? This is how they calculate, and 10,000 to 100,000 is bullshit. I can guarantee you it's way more than that, right? So I'm like, all right, can you give me a total of all the wild birds in UK, not just 2 species like you did before, right? So then it tries to do the same shit, right? It's like, oh yeah, there's 250 species. It doesn't want to give me an actual whole number here, right? And then it goes back to the same thing. Oh, this many have died, right? So it's like, oh, well, precisely. So I'm like, you aren't doing a very good job. Give me an estimate of how many wild birds are normally in the UK in a given year. So then they go and they give me a number based on breeding seasons. So they're like 168 million individual breeding birds. And this isn't like actual during the breeding season, right? It's important to note that these figures represent breeding birds during the breeding season. So when there's a bunch of them out there, right? So then it goes on and it's like, of course they're talking about breeding ones. They're not talking about baby ones, right? So I'm like, okay, so there are roughly 170 million wild birds in the UK. It's like, all right, yeah, right? So I'm like, and you really think domestic cats kill 55 million wild birds each year, which is a third of the wild bird population. And then ChatGPT's all like, oh, wait a second, actually, you're making a good point. This is probably bullshit. You're right to question that number. It does sound extreme when put into perspective. If the UK has roughly 170 million wild birds and domestic cats are estimated to kill 55 million birds annually, that would mean nearly a third of the population is being wiped out each year. That level of predation would likely lead to catastrophic population declines, which we don't see happening on that scale. No fucking shit, right? So then it's like, it tries to like reason this. It's like, okay, well, could be flawed extrapolation. No fucking shit, it's flawed extrapolation. Then it goes on, it's like, oh, maybe there's rapid bird reproduction. Yeah, that's fucking happening, right? So, yeah, they reproduce so quickly, right? So uncertain data collection, yeah, no shit. Not all cats hunt. Yeah, no fucking shit, jackass. The UK has between 9 and 12 million pet cats, but not all of them hunt birds regularly. Many live indoors, and hunting success varies among individuals. And this proves right here that their number before, their 9 million number from 2003, was trying to equate that all, or trying to insinuate, or trying to assert that all fucking 9 million domestic cats in the UK are hunting fucking birds annually, on the regular. Okay, so it's fucking bullshit. Okay, and this just goes to show how much of their studies are total fucking bullshit. Now let's look at the main topic of this video. I know it's probably going to be a longer video than it ought to be, but let's look at the main topic of this video. So the 10 catastrophic climate predictions that failed. This is Environmental Freaks. Environmental Freaks have warned of global apocalypse for decades. This is March 6, 2025. It's a pretty recent article. It's been almost 6 years since the delinquent child activist Greta Thunberg promoted a so-called scientific warning that climate change will wipe out all of humanity unless we stop using fossil fuels by 2023. I guess all of humanity's been wiped out for 2 years, right? No wonder why shit is so fucking weird. We're all actually dead, and we have literally been sent all to hell, and this is actually hell, which actually would make a lot more sense, or would explain the shit that's going on a lot better than this actually being reality, because there is some bullshit going on. So the scientist in question, Harvard University professor James Anderson, also predicted there will be no floating ice remaining in the Arctic Ocean by 2022, absent a Marshall Plan-style endeavor in which all of the world takes extreme measures to transition off of fossil fuels completely within the next 5 years. See, once again, this is terrorism. This is psychological terrorism that they've been pushing to manipulate us into some sort of political action. And that's what terrorism is. Doing these terroristic acts to create a political outcome. That didn't happen, but climate activists are still warning that the Arctic could be ice-free at some point between 2035 and 2067. Of course, all of their fucking wrong, everything that they've gotten wrong has not stopped them. Why? Because they've faced no actual consequences. Do you know how many people's lives they have ruined with this terroristic psychological propaganda? Or this psychological terrorist propaganda, however you want to word it. They've ruined so many lives. I know so many people who give up on life, and they're like, oh, what's the point? The world's going to be over in this many years anyway. It totally demoralizes people, and when they have no morale, it totally removes their morale, and that makes them give up on life. It makes them lose so much drive to actually do something. So not surprisingly, there is a long history dating back to the 1970s of so-called climate scientists and government bureaucrats making catastrophic predictions. What's funny is I don't think this article is going to talk about when they were claiming that there was going to be an ice age. Okay, they weren't claiming that there was. They're not talking about that. And it's interesting that this article doesn't talk about that. And they were claiming that there was going to be an ice age in the 1960s. They were claiming that the 70s, we're going to go into an ice age. And they were claiming this because the 1940s was really hot and actually temperatures went down. And that's exactly why they've manipulated all of those temperature records. And I'll get into that in a second, right? I'll get into that towards the end of this video. So in 1970, S. Dillon Ripley, a wildlife conservationist who served as secretary of the Smithsonian Institute, warned that 75% to 80% of species would be extinct by 1995. Obviously fucking wrong, right? And look at the prestigious position this person had. I'm a secretary of the Smithsonian Institute. Yep. When you lie, when you bullshit people, when you spread psychological terrorism, you get promoted because that's what the powers that shouldn't be want. They want a population that is fucking has no morale, that is beaten down, and, they've given up on the fight. And that's why I end all of my videos by saying, no, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay sharp. Don't let these people beat you down. We can fight them. We can beat them. On an ideological ground. We don't need to fight them using actual violence and being fucking terrorists like these climate scientists, like these climate terrorists are being. These climate activists. They like to call, we're activists. Yeah, you're actively terrorizing people. So in 1970, Kenneth Watt an ecologist and professor at the University of California, Davis, warned that there won't be any more crude oil, that none of our land will be suitable for agriculture, and their world would be 11 degrees colder by the year 2000. Oh yeah, this guy was part of the cooling science, right? Because at the time, the science looked like it was cooling. Everything was cooling, okay? But of course, they've manipulated that data to show, like, no, there's only been an increase in temperature. And this is something that Tony Heller talks a lot about. Tony Heller, you guys should check him out on YouTube. He's also on a couple other platforms. Tony Heller, what he does, he has great videos. Some of his best videos are titled like, Ice Doesn't Lie, but Climate Scientists Do. And what he'll do is he'll look at like the 1940s, when it was really hot, 1930s when it was really hot, where there was actual record heat and stuff. And he would show, he's like, look, ice at this time was actually retreating. There were a lot of icebergs. There were a lot of glaciers that were actually retreating, not icebergs. Icebergs are brought from glaciers, but he would look at retreating glaciers at that time. And he would show that, like, look, they were actually melting at a pretty fast rate at that time when the world was experiencing some pretty intense heat. And then he would look at today, and he'll show that those glaciers, those very same glaciers, have grown. So he's like, oh, that's crazy. So according to these climate scientists, ice melts when it's cold because according to them, it's colder now in the 1930s because they've manipulated the data. So according to their data, now the 1940s or 1930s looks colder than it is today. So it's like, oh, crazy. Look, in the 1930s and 40s, these glaciers were melting. And according to these scientists, it was colder then, and it's hotter now, and now they're growing. So glaciers melt when it's colder, and they grow when it's hotter? That doesn't make any fucking sense. He does a great job. Tony Heller, really great guy, right? At least in terms of climate science. I also have a lot of great climate videos myself. You just got to look through them. I think I have a playlist showing a lot of the fraud. So anyway, in 1970, you got this biologist, Paul Ehrlich, at Stanford University warned that by the end of the decade, up to 200 million people would die each year from starvation due to overpopulation. Life expectancy would plummet to 42 years, and all ocean life would perish. Extremely false, of course. Also in the 1970s, Peter Gunter, a professor at North Texas State University, predicted that world population will outrun food supplies, and the entire world, with the exception of Western Europe, North America, and Australia, will be in famine by the year 2000. Of course, it didn't happen. So what happened was America and their imperialism, they were like, okay, we got to go into the rest of the world and we got to fuck it all up. We got to go into the Middle East. We got to bomb the shit out of the Middle East. We got to go everywhere else. We got to like pollute their environments. So they're trying to make this guy's thing come true over here. So in 1971, you got Dr. S.I. Rasool, an atmospheric scientist at NASA, predicted the coming of a new ice age within 50 years. Incorrect. In 1975, Ehrlich, the Stanford biologist, I guess this is the same dude as where was he? This guy, the Paul Ehrlich, the Stanford University douchebag. So a couple years later, 5 years later, warned that 90% of tropical rainforests and 50% of species would disappear within 30 years. So his other prediction, look at this shit was bullshit. 200 million people would die from starvation. Life expectancy would plummet to 42. 5 years later, he didn't stop lying. He was like, oh, let's fucking throw even bigger lies out there. 1988, Hussein Shihab, I'm just going to emphasize that name again. In 1988, Hussein Shihab, Environmental Affairs Director of the Maldives, warned that his island nation would be completely underwater within 30 years, which wouldn't even matter because experts also predicted the Maldives would run out of drinking water by 1992. And of course, the Maldives, fucking nothing's changed over there. In 2004, a Pentagon analysis warned of global anarchy due to climate change. Major European cities would be underwater by 2020. Which ones? Oh, none of them. That's right. It didn't fucking happen. At which point Britain would suffer from a Siberian climate. Extremely false, of course. Number 9. In 2008, Bob Woodruff of ABC News hosted a 2-hour climate change special warning that New York City could be underwater by 2015, among other apocalyptic predictions, which did not fucking happen. In 2009, former Vice President and climate activist Al Gore predicted the Arctic Ocean would have no ice by 2014. Well, it'd be. He claimed the summer. It's kind of nuanced there, which is the same thing Greta Thunberg said would happen by 2020. I'm sorry, by 2022. Okay, of course, there's a whole bunch of other ones that aren't even included in this article, like a whole bunch. Tony Heller goes through a lot of them. So if this is your cup of tea, if you're not this guy, Damian Gale, who thinks he's so cool, look how cool I am, man. I got my glasses, and I got like my newsboy cap to cover my bald head. Yeah, everything is fine. Don't worry, it's all on fire. Everything's on fire, but everything's fine. Don't worry, I'm so cool, I'm so hip. But don't forget, I'm a bald piece of shit that the person speaking right now in this video wouldn't trust as far as he can throw me. I could actually probably throw him farther than I trust him, so who knows? But don't trust these people. They're all scumbags. If this is your cup of tea, go check out Tony Heller. He does a really great job at this. Check out my other climate videos. I got a couple other climate videos. You can just check out my climate playlist. And that's the end of this video. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay sharp, because you're needed in this fight, and you're not going to be of much use if you're all depressed, and if you're all unhealthy, and if your fucking mind is as sharp as a baseball bat.
Get the fuck down off of my obstacle! I'm gonna rip your balls off so you cannot contaminate the rest of the world!